Kadosh, Boker Or, Shavua Tov, Masechet, Bava Kamma Daf Yod, Amud Aleph, 10a1. Yeah, Daf Yod. Says the Gemara, Chomer Beshor mi be'esh, Vechomer be'esh mi beshor. There's always going to be different stringencies, right? And different leniencies. So for you, it could be a stringency, and for me, it could be a leniency. So he comes here and he says that there's a chumrah by a shore, by an ox, more than by fire. But there's a chumrah by fire more than the shore. So says the Gemara, chomer, right? Beshor ni be'esh, shashor meshalem kofer, right? That means the shore pays kofer. Remember, if he kills someone, the shore kills someone, he has to pay kofer. Vechayav Shloshim shel Eved. He's going to pay 30, right, of an Eved. Nigmar dino, if it's Nigmar din to be killed, this shore, Asur b'hana'ah. He's not allowed to benefit. It's Asur b'hana'ah. Misaro. If right now he comes and he gives it to a cheresh shoteh v'katan, right, in such a scenario where he gives it to a cheresh shoteh v'katan, he says, chayav, he's going to be chayav. Yeah? Mashen ken be'esh. By esh, you don't have all those things. So, if a fire comes and kills someone, he doesn't pay kofet, he doesn't pay shloshim shel eved, it's not asur bana, right? And it doesn't apply. Chomer be'esh mi beshor, but you have a chumrah of the esh by the shore. Yeah? He says, sha'esh muedet mitchilata mashen ken beshor. A fire is like a human being. It's muad from the beginning, which means it pays nezek shalem, full damages from the beginning, not like a shor. A shor, the first 3 times, is going to pay chetzi nezek, half of the nezek, because it's a tam. However, though, here is going to pay nezek shalem. Okay? Yafeh? Yeah? Okay. Very good. Next. Says the Braita. He comes and he says like this. Chomer the chumrah. Be'esh mi bebor, right? The chumrah of esh more than a pit. He says chomer bebor mi tamesh, and there's more of a chumrah by the bor more by the fire. So again, fire and pit, pit and fire. Again, we're trying to take the different cases in our Mishnah and trying to find which one's more strict. So we keep on saying there's a stringency here, leniency here, stringency here. That's the way they were doing it. Chomer bebor mi be'esh. He says the chumrah by the pit more than a fire. When you come and you make a pit, that's already for nezek. It's already going to be for damaging. If you gave it over to a cheresh shoteh v'katan, you're going to be chayav. Okay, mashen ken be'esh, not like by esh. Esh is the fire, right? Chomer be'esh mi bevor, but the chumrah fire more than a bor. The fire travels to damage. The bor is immobile. Yeah, right? And it's going to be muad to destroy anything, whether it's fitting or not fitting. Mashen ken bebor, not like the bor. Right? The Gemara is going to explain that. What does that mean? Okay, what does that mean that the bor is not fitting to devour something which is not fitting for it? What does that mean? So says the Gemara. 1 second. Velitni chomer beshor mi bevor shashor chiyev bo ta kelim mashen ken bevor. So 1 second. Why don't you just learn that a shor is more strict than a bor? Why? A shor is chayav on kelim, and a bor is not chayav on kelim. Meaning only if an animal or a human being falls into a bor, he's going to be chayav, but not kelim. So it answers the Gemara. We're going to learn the Gemara why. Why is it? No. That's why. Kelim has meaning a bor has a special heter that if a utensil falls inside of a bor, you don't have to pay for it. Now the question is why, but we'll learn it later on. Okay, so Hamani, who is this exactly? Rabbi Yehuda here. It's Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds, again, it's going to come out in a machloket, but are you chayav on, by a bor, are you chayav on a keli? So according to Shitat Rabbi Yehuda, yes. Okay? So says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda, if you're going to tell me this is going according to the Shitat of Rabbi Yehuda, Ema Seifa. Let's see the Seifa. Chomer be'esh mi bebor. Right? The chumrah by the fire more than a bor. Sha'esh tarka lelech ulazik. The fire goes and damages. and it's muad lechol, davar ra'ui la v'davar she'eino ra'ui la, and the fire just devours everything, right? So he says mashen kem bevor, but the bor is different. Davar ra'ui la, right, which is something which is fitting for it. My nihu, what is it exactly? Etzim. It's etzim. It's fire. It's the wood, right? Davar she'eino ra'ui la, kelim. Mashen kem bevor, right? But the bor is not like that. What does that mean? If it's a Yehuda, you just told me Rabbi Yehuda says that you're going to be chayav and iske kelim bebor. So says the Gemara, you're right. Ela lo'olam rabbanan. It's going to be rabbanan. Tana v'shi'er. What does it mean, Tana v'shi'er? It means that the Tana, he comes and he left over some of the chumrot. So says the Gemara, my shi'er, dai shi'er. He says shi'er tamun. He was shi'er tamun. Because remember, shor and bor are chayav on tamun. Esh is batur on tamun. Tamun means something hidden. For example, right? For example, let's say right now I have, I don't know, something here. I don't know what it is, right? And there's hidden money inside. So by Esh, right? There's always usually hidden money by him, right? He's got always cash, right? So, right? It's always going to be, right? It's always going to be patur on the Esh. Yeah, what does that mean? It's always going to be patur for a fire. That means the fire comes and starts going through a place. And it goes and it burns down a doghouse. Now, nobody knew, but in the doghouse, right, you thought it was only for a dog, right? The guy didn't even have a dog. You know what he had it for? Right, inside, right, it was hidden, right? There was a hidden compartment and he had the millions of dollars, all the flush, right? Instead of having it in a briefcase, the briefcase was all there. It was all in the doghouse.
That was the safe.
Yeah, that was the safe. You understand? So what happens? So what happens is that you could come and you say, listen, your fire burnt out. I want this. Says, how much was your doghouse? He goes, no, it wasn't the doghouse. I had a safe in the doghouse. And in the safe, that's tamun. Tamun for esh, you're patur. For esh, for fire, you're patur on tamun. What are you going to be chayav? Right? By bor, right? Or by other things. You're going to be chayav.
If you buy a field and there is under the earth there is a gold. If you buy a field,
if you buy more time, let's say right now, right, if tamun falls inside of a pit. So inside of a pit falls a knapsack, and in the knapsack you're obligated to pay for everything, whether it's a pit or whether it's going to be a shore, right? But when we're talking about the fire, a fire is exempt for anything which is hidden. That's called tamun. Right? Tamun is hidden. So the fire comes and consumes something, and there was something hidden. No, whatever's seen to the naked eye, that's what you're chayav to pay. Whatever is hidden, you don't have to pay. So that's the concept by fire. So fire does not have to pay.
So if in the doghouse there was something else,
yes, you don't have to pay
for the
doghouse. That's it.
It's like that in real estate also.
Yeah.
If you don't see it during special, if you don't see it.
That's it. Okay.
There's in here.
Very good. He comes now and he says this. If you want, you could answer. Leolam, really, we're going into the Shita of Rabbi Yehuda. The Davar she'en ra'ui la, and when it says that it's something which is not fitting, right? 10a, Bava Kamma, right? He says Davar she'en ra'ui la, lav la'atuye kelim, ela la'atuye lichecha nirov sichsicha vanav. We're not talking about kelim. We're talking about where it's going to come and it's going to start burning something, which means like this. Sometimes a fire comes and doesn't destroy it, but it like burns it. So that's called the pshat of lichecha niro. It comes and it's going to burn the charisha or the stones. So in this case, when it comes and makes like, the charcoal, the smoke, I don't know what you want to call it exactly, right? So he says you're only going to be chayav by the esh and not by the bor. Okay? Fine. Next. Matkifla Ravashi. Ravashi comes and he asks the following question. Litzni chomer beshor mi bevor. Why don't we learn another chumrah by the shore more than the bor? Shashor chiyev bo shor psule mugdashim. That the shore, you're going to be chayav, even a shore which was mugdash to a korban and then was redeemed and has a mum. Remember that psule mugdashim, when you make it ekdesh means you consecrate it for a korban. And then all of a sudden it has a mum, it has a defect. So you have to redeem it. So that's called shor psule mugdashim. You redeem it. You have to redeem it for another shor, because now you can't bring the shor anymore as a korban. You have to bring another one. So that one, the first one, right, that it got a mum, so now it's not anymore, it's a shor psula mugdashin. It's pasul, right? Why? Because you can't bring it anymore. and you just let it to graze until it's going to die or whatever it is. So mashen can be bor, but by a bor, you're going to be patur if the shore, like this shore, comes inside. So says the Gemara, if you're going to tell me that this is the shita of the rabbis, I did the shir hach, since we already left over this one, so we left over psula mikdushin as well. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, right, my shir, I the shir, which one did you leave over? What means like this: if you come and you tell me that you had something left over, meaning that I did not bring all the cases, so therefore I can have another 3 cases that I didn't bring down, or 5 cases that I didn't bring down. Because if I already did not bring down all the cases, so then okay, so I say it's part of it. But if you're going to tell me that I brought all the cases, so why didn't we bring it then? Why didn't we bring it? Means like this: I'm going to write a contract, right? Just to understand what we're talking about. I'm going to write a contract. So I'm going to come and I'm going to tell you, okay, this is what's going to happen if A, B, C, D. Now, if I just said, etc., right, and there's going to be, and I left one over. So now when I say, etc., etc., whatever, it could mean another 20 things, right? Why? Because I wrote down, etc., and then, but if I didn't write down, etc., and I only brought you down 4 cases, 4 cases. If there was a 5th case, I'm sorry, it's not written in the contract, right? So that's what we're saying over here. Says the Gemara, if you're going to tell me it's the rabbis, so then it makes sense. Why? Because the rabbi said that we left over something which is called tamun, which is basically something which is hidden. And therefore, if we already left over tamun, we also left over the psulei mukdashim. Why? Because you're leaving things over. But if you're going to tell me it's going according to Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore he's going to say you're going to be chayav, right, on whether it's going to be on the kelim in a bor, right, or on the tamun also by ish. So therefore, what did he leave over? He didn't leave anything over. So answers the Gemara, shier dash beniro. He left over a shore that is going to be dash beniro. What does that mean? When he was going to be doing charisha, he went and he trampled upon a person. And a davka shore is going to be chayav in this nezek, and not a bor, because obviously a bor cannot come and cannot damage in such a fashion. Okay? So that's just very, very important. Okay? Fine. Says now the Gemara. So says the Gemara, if you're going to tell me now that he's plowing, remember nowadays, the way that we plow is with a huge machinery. And the huge machinery does everything it wants. It plows, plants. It does I don't know how many peulot in 1 second. Meaning this combustion, whatever the name of the machine is, it does everything in one shot. In the olden days, you had to have the 2 different ox going back and forth, plow the entire field. After that, you would come, you would actually put the seeds. Afterwards, again, you would plow it again, so that way it goes back into the ground. It was a very difficult process. Yeah, it was mamash. It was very difficult. It wasn't easy to do, to be a farmer. Nowadays, it's very easy with all the machinery that they have nowadays. It became very easy. But says the Gemara, right? Imishum dash beniro lav shiudo. That's not a leftover. Why? Gatana, because we already learned in the Braita sheken darko lelechu lazik. You have to remember a shore, it's normal to go and to damage. And therefore, since it's normal to go and to damage, so therefore this is also the same thing. It was plowing and it went and damaged. We're not talking about a bore. A bore is a pit. A pit is immobile. If it cannot move, obviously the only way to get damaged is to fall into the pit. But the pit does not move, right? The shore moves. The ox moves. So if it's going to damage, fine. We're by the 2 dots, where the 2 dots says, Hiksharti, right? B'miktzat nisko, chavti b'tashumei nezek hechsher kol nisko. Which means like this. Let's see what we're talking about. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita. Hiksharti miktzat nisko, right? Chavti b'tashumei nisko hechsher kol nisko. Okay, so what is the case then? That basically that I was the one that caused part of the nezek, so therefore I'm going to be chayav to pay the nezek, right? The damages, just like I caused all the damages. What's the case? Achofer bor tisha. Listen to this case. We said that a pit is only considered a pit with 10 tfachim. 10 tfachim means 80 centimeters. If it's less than that,
wide or deep?
Deep. If it's less than that, it's nothing. Huh? That's a tefach. So 80 centimeters. Every tefach is around 8 centimeters.
10, no?
Right? So 10. Yeah. Okay. So 10 tfachim. Right? So 80 centimeters. So what happens is like this. Imagine right now somebody comes and he digs it 9 tfachim. And somebody else comes and he digs extra 1. Who's chayav?
The last one.
The last one.
Sure.
The last one is chayav. Why? Because he did all the nezek. Meaning until then, it wasn't enough to damage. now it's going to damage. Right? Yeah, he was the one that did it. So he says over here, the last one that dug the extra 8 centimeters in the pit, he's going to be chayav. Says the Gemara, 1 second, udelo kerebi. This is not like Rabbi. Titania was learned in the Braita. Chofer bor tisha uba'achar v'shimon asara. Ha'acharon chayav. Rabbi omer achar acharon lemita. Ve'achar shnehem lenezikin. Rabbi wanted to come and say something different. Rabbi wanted to come and say like this. The last one only made it bad enough to kill. So if somebody falls into the pit and dies, it's only the last one that's going to be chayav. But 1 second, if somebody comes and they trip into a pit, even if it's and they broke their leg, now you're right. If it's going to be 20 centimeters, right? They're not going to die, right? It doesn't exist them dying, but they could get damaged. So says Rabbi, both of them are chayav on the Masechet. So one more time, so the first guy comes and digs 9. Second guy comes and he digs 1. The first Tana Kama said the one that dug 1 is all chayav on everything. Says Rabbi, it's incorrect. The last one that dug is chayav for the mitah, for the death. Because the first person, nobody would die. That's what the rabbis evaluated. But if somebody's going to fall into a pit of 70 centimeters, right? 70 centimeters is not a lot. Huh? What? Exactly. 72 centimeters is Teisha.
72.
I said 70. Same thing. Shalom עם שוס. זה בדיוק אותו דבר. No, הוא מאוד מדייק. זה דקדוק. So he comes and he says like this. He comes and he says, he comes and he says, like this. He says, so therefore, for the 70, we know that a person is not going to die, right? Remember, by the way, 70, just to understand, is a ruler. This is around 30. This is a ruler. A ruler is around 30. You understand? So this is 30. Right?
You can make an advertisement.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you understand? So it's a ruler is 30. Another ruler is another 30. Somebody is going to die if they fall into something of a, even very difficult.
If he has a knife in his hand and he's walking,
if a person has a knife on the head, even if it falls on the floor, right? You don't need a pit. He's the Mahdi. Exactly.
Medication and his blooding, I don't know.
It's not
dies out of the sleep.
By the way, you should know you wouldn't even be obligated. You know that. You wouldn't even be obligated. Even for manslaughter, right? You wouldn't be obligated. Right? Let's say, for example, you did something, not you, somebody came and he did something, right? And okay, fine, but the guy went and something happened extraordinary that he had another 20 conditions and because of that he died. They could take you to court and say you're a murderer. So, didn't do anything. Right? And any normal person wanted to do that. But it doesn't matter. But what you did was not bad enough. So they can never come and obligate you, right, on a death penalty or anything like that. They could try to say it was how do you call it? It's something in manslaughter, but it's another word for it. That it was you didn't have the kavanah for it. It was like involuntary, like thing like that. Meaning like
but you understand? Even in fall, he would die.
That's what it is. I'm gonna ask you a question. You came and you were going 20 miles an hour, right? Mama, 15. You're in a school zone, right? And you went and you hit somebody hit another car by accident, right? Now the guy went and he had a heart attack. Like, I don't know why the guy dropped dead. You're gonna be chayav that you killed the guy? I went, it was 15 miles an hour. I went, boom. Okay, so you're right. You're the car hit the other. Take away his license, dangerous driving. No dangerous driving, no nothing. Yeah, I think it's in that's what I think it is. Yeah, so which means that it wasn't so they can't come and start you understand. So obviously we're not talking about those cases. Okay, fine. Says the Gemara, Rav Papa comes and he says limita. What does it mean limita? Divrei hakol. For everybody agrees that to do with death, it's only the second person. But that's for sure. There's nobody that's talking about you understand? Only the second guy that came in that added in the extra one, he was the one that caused the entire nezek. So some people say lema delo kerebi. The Amar of Papa says lemita divrei hakol. Some people say just say that this is not like Rabbi, and according to Rav Papa, we're only talking about death situations, and therefore it's going to everybody. Meaning like this: if we're talking about nizikin, obviously it's not like Rabbi, because according to Rabbi, even the first guy is chayav on nizikin. But if you're going to tell me that it's lemita is, that means for death penalty, the death, you're obligated for death thing, so it's always the last one, that's according to everybody. Okay? Matkif la Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera comes and asks the following question. What? There's no other dugmaot of a chiyuv of an adam that he was machshir chelek ma'nezek, and it's kilu that he did the entire nezek. He says, Vayika, masar shoro lechamisha bnei adam, upasha bo echad mehen, v'izik. So yichayav. Imagine right now I come and a person gives his shore to 5 people to watch over it. Right? That means he didn't give it to one person. He comes and he says, you guys are 5 people here. Watch over it. Yeah, watch over it. What happens? One of them was Pushe'ah. And the shore ran away and he damaged. So that person that was Pushe'ah, he has to pay. Nobody else. I gave it here. Here we're actually, 8 people. Whatever. It doesn't matter what. Right? But I gave it. He was Pushe'ah. Now what? Everyone else is going to be chayav? He's Pushe'ah. Yeah? Everyone else is going to be chayav? Not going to be chayav. Yeah. He says, he comes and he says, he comes and he says, so therefore what do you want? Why is everyone else going to be chayav? Obviously he's going to be chayav. So hechidami. So what's the case? He says, if you're going to tell me without him, it wasn't actually watched over. So he says, Pshita, obviously. He says, he was one that did it. But if you're going to tell me that even without him, it would have been watched over, so my kavi. Meaning like this, if you're going to tell me that without him, anyway, it wasn't watched over, so therefore, obviously, meaning that he was the one that caused everything. But if you're going to tell me that even without him, right, it was still watched over, so what did he do then? If you have another 4 people still watching over it, what do I care now that he was Posheah? The other day it was still watched over. Yeah? So says the Gemara, right? So he comes and he says, what did he do? So because of that, that's why you cannot come and say such a case. So Matkifla Rav Shesha comes and he asks, Vayika marbe bechavila. He says, fine. But what about marbe bechavila? What does that mean? A person comes and he's adding on chavilot zmorot, right, to a dleka, right? Which means that he's coming and he's marbe bechavila, right? So now the question is, who's going to be chayav in that such a case? So for example, a person has a little tiny bonfire and you come and you start adding on pieces of wood. Now you're very, very smart. You don't add the piece of wood in the middle. You add it to the side. And then you take another one, you add it to the side. And then you, without realizing it, right, or with realizing it, you're pulling the fire to a certain direction. Because if I have the fire here and I put a branch here, and then another branch here, and another branch here, and the fire continues. So what's happening is I'm shifting the fire. So says the Gemara, 1 second. What's the case exactly? Hechidami. Says the case, Yoda Mubet, 10b. Right? If it was there without you, it wouldn't have gone. Shita, obviously. But what do you want? Ella de Blavi Wazla. My Kavit, so what are you doing then? So he comes and he says, so Matki Fla Rav Papa. Rav Papa comes and he asks the following question. Vehaika Hadetanya. We have another case also. Chamisha Shiashu al Safsal Echad Velo Shavru. Uba Echad Yashav Alav Ushvaro Acharon Chayav. Imagine right now you have, right, many times this happens, right? You have, right, a bench, and there are 5 people that are sitting on it. You know, they come and they show this many times on the joke videos, right? So you have 5 people sitting on it, right? And everything's fine. All of a sudden comes the last guy. He comes, no. He comes and sit down and boom, right? It just breaks, right? And then everyone, what's going on, right? So the question that we ask ourselves is, right, that you had 5 people. The last one comes and he sits down and then he breaks it. What's going to be the halacha? So he says the last one that broke it is going to be chayav. Rav Papa says, Papa Baraba. For example, Papa Baraba, why? He was a balbasar. He was a guy that was a little bit heavy. So since he was a little bit heavy, when he comes and he sits down, boom, right? It's going to crush, as they say. So you should be chayav, the last one. So says the Gemara, what's the case? Huh? Let's see. The Gemara is going to ask. If you're going to tell me without him that it wouldn't have broken, so then pshita, obviously. Why? You went over. It's like, you go into an elevator. It tells you in the elevator how many what? Kilos, right? Pounds, whatever it is, right? So now, if you're going to come in and you see a packed elevator, and then you jump in, and all of a sudden, the elevator is, listen, I'm sorry, you went overboard.
But on bench, you don't have a minimum
of course you do on everything. You do have a minimum, you do have a maximum capacity on everything. Do you know that when you buy a bed, right, the bed tells you how many pounds is the maximum, right? Do you know that? No.
Scooter too.
A scooter, a car, a car. You know, when you buy a car, there's a maximum load. I cannot come and unless it's a pickup truck, I cannot come and start taking, right? Put in the trunk, right? A whole bunch of I don't know what, the compressor or AC unit, just put in the back of a regular car. You know what's gonna happen to the car? It's gonna crash. The suspension is not made for it. It's not there. Well, that's everything. It's everything in the every single thing.
It's common sense. He should have figured that if he sits down on that piece of wood,
Of course,
everything was going to.
It's gonna break. You should have understood. And by the way, that's in everything in life, right? When you come into the synagogue, how many people is there written now? 108. Yeah, 108. Yeah, 108.
You should change it to 101.
108.
Yeah.
But 108 is next to the bathroom. I don't think it's in the bathroom.
108. 108 sitting. 108 sitting. 108
in the
sitting.
bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
108 sitting. Keilu, that's you understand? What does that mean? That means that in everything in life, everywhere where you go, right, there's a limit. There's a limit. Right? You go where you're gonna buy a bathtub, you're gonna buy this. Yeah, you understand? יש גבול. יש אנשים שלא מכירים את הגבול שלהם, ואז ממילא הם לא נמצאים. Yeah? You understand? Meaning, right? That's a... Yeah? Fine. Okay? Next. So says the Gemara. Says the Gemara. Like this. So, sorry, what? It's still recording. So he says, what's the case? If you're going to tell me right now that it wouldn't have broken, so Pshita obviously, but rather it would have broken without him. So what did he do then? Meaning this last guy, if anyway, it would have broken it. So what do you want then? Right? What do you want? It would have broken it anyway. Okay? Fine. So says the Gemara, So at the end of the day, how are you going to explain the Braita that Rav Papa brought? Right? Which case then? Because in every single case, you kept on answering it. So which case is it that you did part of the nezek and you're going to be chayav of the entire nezek? So says, what are we dealing with? Without him, it would have broken in 2 hours. But now it broke in 1 hour. That's the difference. Meaning, you helped it in the time. You accelerated it, but it didn't break. So, for example, we're going to be on this table. This table is made out of paper. So if I come and I do like this and I put enough pressure, it'll break, right? But let's say I'm just coming and I'm with one hand like this and I'm putting pressure. And then he comes and he puts his hand like that, right? So now, and then he's going to come and bichlal, with his strength, bichlal, yeah, he puts his hand like that. So what happens, right? What happens is that they all start putting pressure. When they all start putting pressure, what happens is that now it would break, right? It would break within 1 hour instead of breaking after 2 hours. That's a pshat. So he says, they could tell him, if it wasn't for you, it would have stayed longer, and then nothing would have, and we would have gotten up. Meaning, it wouldn't have broken. No, let's say a bench. A bench.
But it relates to what?
It relates to the case, not of a board. It relates to a case where they said that I could, if a person comes and they do part of the damage, they are obligated in all the damage. What was the case? What's the case that they're obligated in all the damage?
I have a case like that yesterday.
So he comes and he says like this. So he says, right, like this. Why don't we just say, if you didn't come, but it wouldn't have broken at all. Right? So it says the Gemara, what are we dealing with? To the last one that he came and he put his pressure, right? That's where it broke because he put like his pressure, and therefore because of him it actually broke. Right? That means that means you're right. Obviously, everyone else also had to put it, and it was already, being overriding, as they say. But that's the way that it is. Okay? So it says in Pshita, obviously, Mao the Tema, I would have thought to say, right? I would have thought to say kocho lav kegufo dami, right? That his koach is not like right the body. So when you put pressure on something, that's your body. That means because if the body is going to break it, meaning that you're leaning on something, that's your body. It means that you're putting your pressure on it. So it means you broke it. That's your koach. That's you yourself that's doing it. So it says even have a tulika what? There's no other cases. There's another case also. Adam. Maklot. Right? This happens all the time. Right? There's a gang, beating. They come, they take a guy and they start beating him up. right? And there were 10 people beating him up. And all of a sudden, the guy dies. Who's the murderer?
It's in there all the
So
people.
says the Gemara, listen carefully. He says there were 10 people, 10 sticks, ben bevat achad, ben bezeh b'chazeh, whether it was in one shot or one after another, v'met, and he dies, kulam pturim. They're all patur. They're all exempt. Says Rabbi Yehuda Mimitira says, bezeh charzeh, the last one is chayav. Why? Shekirev mitato, because he brought his death earlier. Meaning the last one was the one that, did the finishing job. He was bringing it closer. You understand? So therefore, even though it wasn't that, but he was one that was mekarev mita, meaning that obviously we're not talking about that the last guy came and put a bullet to the guy's head. Because that means obviously he's a murderer. Or that he went and he gave the final blow. What we're talking about is, right, gracias. Right, so he comes and he says, like this, he says, right, that what are you going to do? He comes and he says what he could do is that he could, how do you call this? Is that each one was just beating. That means right now, the last guy that gave him a beating, he's still alive. Because if the last one gave him a beating and he died right away, it's the last one. Because he killed. But what happened is a half an hour later, the guy died. So the last one is chayav because he was mekarev mitato. He brought closer the death. Okay? He brought closer the death. Okay?
No.
Says the Gemara, we're not talking about death. The Baitema, or if you want to answer, beplukta lo kamari, this is a machloket. We're not talking about machlokot. Velo, we're not talking about machloket. Val kumina de lo kerebi. We said it's not like Rabbi. So says the Gemara, de lo kerebi uchrabanan mukminan. It's not like Rabbi and like the Rabbanan, and like Rabbi Yehuda b'metira, and not like Rabbanan lo mukminan. But we didn't want to say it like that as well. 2 dots. Chavti b'tashlumen nisko. We made it chav and tashlumen ezek. Chavti b'nisko lo kten. We didn't say chavti b'nisko, but rather tashlumen nisko. So Tanin la'ad etan Rabbanan tashlumen ezek v'lamet sha'ba'alim metaplim b'nevela. What does that mean? The ba'alim, the nizak, he has to take care of the dead body. Meaning, right now they came and they killed his animal. He has to come and take care of his own animal that's dead. Right? It's true they're going to come and they're going to pay him whatever it is, but he has to take care of the carcass. The carcass is upon him to take care of it. How do we know these words? Rabbi Yami says, the pasuk says, "Makenefesh b'may shalamena, al tikrei shalamena yashlimena." Yashlimena means lashon hashlama. That means he doesn't have to actually read mashlim, whatever the leftover is, right? But not more than that. Because why? Because since he keeps the carcass, he could sell the carcass and make money off of it. So the nizak, the one that got damaged, sells the carcass and he can make money from it. So Rav Kahana comes and he says, from here, another pasuk. Im tarof yitaref ivyehu ed, ha-terefai lo yishalem. Ad terefai yishalem. Terefai atzma lo yishalem. What does that mean? We make a pasuk. Im yitaref ashor b'pshiat hashomer. So therefore, the difference between, right, the money of the shor achai and the trefa, which is nivela, he has to pay. But the trefa itself, he doesn't have to pay. Why? Because the person, the nizak, takes a shor and he could sell it. He can make money off of it. Chizkiah comes and he says, from here, vamet yelo. What does it mean vamet yelo? The dead body belongs to him, la nizak. Vamet yelo la nizak. Ataomer la nizak or la mazik. Is it for the nizak or the mazik? Amarta lo kachaya. That wasn't the story. What does it mean lo kachaya? If you're going to tell me that nevela belongs to the mazik, the Torah should write shor tachat shor v'lishok and just keep quiet. Why does it say v'ameti elo lamali? Shemamina la nizak. It's talking about for the nizak. What does that mean? Meaning we're talking about here one more time. A person's ox comes and goes another ox. It dies. Who keeps the carcass? Who has to take care of the carcass? So here the Gemara is saying that the nizak, the damagee, the one that got damaged, he takes the carcass and he takes care of it. If he's going to sell it, now he made money off of it. So now the damager pays the difference. Okay, we need both cases. The Torah wrote mishum de lo shchicha because it's not common. But we're on the last one, right? Mishum de lo shchicha. Aval terefa de shchicha, but terefa that is common. Imalo, I would say no. So tzricha, that's why we needed both cases. And if you're going to teach me in the case of terefa, mishum de mimela, because it's mimela it happened. It became a terefa on its own. He says, but when you're going to hit an animal to be a dime that you did with your own hands, Imalo, I would say no. If I only tell you both 2 cases, ha mishum de lo shchicha, but it's not common. Mishum de mimela, because the nezik was done on its own. Aval ve'amet yelo, when it says ve'amet yelo, the shchicha with a dime that it's common, right? And it's done with a dime. Emalo, I would say no. V'yashminan ve'amet yelo. And if you're going to tell me now what it says ve'amet yelo, mishum de mamona kamazik, because it's coming to be mazik, the money. Aval ha'chavar over here, the v'gufo kamazik. Right, that it's going to be damaging for the body. Even though I would say no, tzricha, that's why you need both cases. Fine. Amaleh Rav Kana Rav says to Rav, Ella Tama, the reasoning why the Baalim have to take care of, the owners have to take care of the Nevela, because the Torah says Vameti Elo. But if it wasn't like that, Havamina, right? Nevela the Mazik Avia, that it belongs to the Mazik. Hashta Yidle Kama Trefot Yivle, what he's going to give it to him. Tamar Mor, Yashiv Leravot Shalakesev, Afilu Subin, Didemi by should be like this, means like this. A person, I would have had a Havamina, that if it's not written anything, somebody comes and damages the shore, I would say, you know what, you take the shore. Why do I have to repair the dead carcass? And then afterwards you pay me the difference. You take the carcass and then you just give me the full amount. Don't drive me crazy. That's what I would have said. That's why the Torah says Vameti Elo, belongs to the Nizak. He has to take care of the carcass and then he does it. So lo nitzchal lepacha nevela. We're talking about the ones that goes down in value. So lema pacha nevela tanahi. So why don't I just say that if it goes down in value, that's a machloket tanaim. The time is we learned to the right time. Tarof yitiref yiviu ed yavi edim shenitrefa beones. I'm going to bring an edim that it was made beones, and therefore it's going to be patur, and that's going to continue in the chance.